Hello, everybody. My name is Rohini. This is the Kala Ghoda Arts Festival. We're in our 22nd year, and truly, it's an evening that we're going to celebrate with you. I have some jazz playing on my phone. I have a lovely glass of red wine that I don't know how to drink as yet. And of course, Gargi Kothari is going to be joining us, representing Magic Cellars. We've also got some great wine flowing thanks to our lovely partner, Sula Wines. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Let me give you a quick history about the event that you're just about to witness. There was a contest that was announced on our social media handle, and we've got some really lucky winners who received all the wine that Gargi is going to be talking about this evening. So we're going to bring you guys on in just a little bit. But before I bring on Gargi, let me not forget to tell you that tomorrow is what we call Super Sunday at Kala Ghoda. If you're a fan of Veer Das and Rohan Joshi, they're going to be on at 7 p.m. tomorrow. If you're a fan of Ashley Lobo, don't miss his session at 4:30 p.m. tomorrow. If you like Pankaj Udas Sahab and Kavita Krishnamurthy, hey, they're going to be joining on a very, very special reunion. That happens at 6 to 7 tomorrow. And my favorite person, Neena Gupta, is going to be talking to Mayank Shekhar with chef and director Vikas Khanna. They made The Last Color together. So I do hope that you'll join them between 8 and 9 p.m. tomorrow. But that's tomorrow. Tonight is Valentine's Eve. And let me give it up for Gargi Kothari, also known as Magic Cellars on social media. And here she is. Gargi, am I drinking this all right? I don't think so. All yours. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Rohini. Thank you for the lovely introduction. Cheers. Hi, everybody. How are you guys? I hope that you guys are ready for an exciting 1 hour of some lovely wines that we're going to taste. And I hope you guys have all chilled your wines perfectly. Everybody must have received this pamphlet that had a little bit of instructions in order to enhance your wine tasting experience. So I hope all you guys have chilled, especially your sparkling wine and your white wine. Yeah, I hope that these are perfectly chilled. And if you haven't put the red wines for chilling yet, if they're still lying outside, then right now would be, a good time to stick them in the fridge, just for about half an hour, during which we are going to a little bit do an introduction around wine. And, we're going to taste the sparkling and the white first, followed by the reds. So then you can just keep them in the fridge right now. If you haven't done it, please do it right now so that they're perfectly chilled, when it's time to taste them. Right. So now I just wanted to give you a short introduction, about myself. I'm Gargi and I'm a sommelier. And I have been in the wine space for about 8 years now. And, so I used to work in the trade, and now I have been doing all these different kinds of wine tasting events. That was pre-COVID. And then after COVID, I have been doing a lot of virtual tastings, a lot of webinars and stuff around wine. So that's how, the whole event today also happened, where we are doing this virtually, and we've sent all the wines to you. And we're going to talk about each of these wines. But before we get into the tasting, what I want to do is I want to start the evening by popping this bottle of sparkling wine. Yeah, so you guys can actually, open this bottle and start sipping on it while we go through some introduction about wine and how you have to taste wine, the 5 steps of tasting wine. I'm going to take you through that before we get into the individual tasting of each of the wines. So, this is, I've seen a lot of people, including people in restaurants who work in restaurants, struggle to open a bottle of sparkling wine. So what I would like to do is to just show you a very quick, easy, and the correct method of opening a bottle of sparkling wine. So if you have it with you, and at any point in time, if you guys have any questions, please put it in the chat window so that I can see it. And, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you have. So right now, what we're going to do is we're going to open this bottle of sparkling. Yeah. And, you take the foil off. I hope you guys are all doing it, with me. Once again, I'm going to see if I can. Okay. Yeah, guys, If you are, then give me a thumbs up in the chat box if you're, if you are opening the bottle of sparkling wine.
So the chat box is disabled. We'll request everybody to switch on their video and react to that.
Okay, all right. So guys, now when you open the bottle of sparkling wine, you remove this foil from that, right? And then, you have this wire thing on top that is known as the cage. And then you twist open the cage. It has about 6 twists generally, but do not remove the cage from the bottle. You just leave it on the bottle itself. Always hold the bottle away from yourself and away from everybody else in the room. Just in case it might pop out, so always keep your thumb on top. And then what you can actually do is you actually just twist the bottle and not the cork. I hope you guys are doing it right now as I'm doing it. I'm also trying to open it, but it keeps slipping. Okay, this is quite tight. Were you guys able to open the bottle?
Do you need help?
You pass. There's a napkin in my bag, blue color. In that only.
Yeah.
So guys, if the bottle is going to be all wet, so use a napkin. You can always use a napkin to open this. Sometimes it happens that the cork gets like really stuck inside in the bottle. Oh, okay, I managed to do it now. It's not happening.
Do you want me to help?
Okay, now it's coming off.
It's coming off? Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, this is a slow. So you just twist the bottle and yes.
There you go.
Guys, I hope you managed to open it. Yeah, and you can pour it in your white wine glass that you have. So generally what we do is we do a tasting of all wines, including sparkling wines, in a white wine glass so that you can really get all the aromas and flavors, from the wine. So you just pour it into your glass. Yeah, and cheers to, beginning the tasting on a happy note. Yeah, wishing everybody a very happy Valentine's Day, and to, invite you to come and fall in love with the world of wine. That is what today's entire session is going to be about. So cheers to that, and feel free to sip on any of the wines that we have poured for you, and when the time comes we will, I will talk about each of the wines. So first I want to get started off with a small visual presentation, where I want to just introduce you guys to some concepts, around wine. And, this quote by Benjamin Franklin really struck a chord with me, because wine for me was always a huge high point. When I discovered wine, learning about wine, discovering different types of wines has always been a huge high point, for me. And that is what I found, most fascinating about this subject. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, so, did you know, generally we associate wine with Western Europe, saying that is like the best place where wine is coming from. But actually wine has a very, very old history, where wine actually originated in the Middle East. If you look at countries like Lebanon, Iran, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, so Eastern Europe, basically, the midpoint between Europe and Asia, Eastern Europe is where wine actually originated from. And it was actually the Phoenicians, which is currently modern day Lebanon. They were the ones who, gained expertise in wine. They were the ones who spread wine across the world through trade and conquest. And then slowly from Eastern Europe, it went to Greece. And then from Greece, it went to the Roman Empire, where the first introduction to the Roman Empire was in Sicily around wine. And then from there, it actually spread to the rest of Europe. So wine, as we know today, has existed since 4000 BC. Of course, there have been a lot of changes, since then. But Western Europe is the modern world of wine. Otherwise, the the Middle East is where actually wine originated. And I thought that something was very fascinating about this. In fact, I want to show you a picture. Can we go to the next slide? Show you a picture of this really old winery that exists today. It's still there. You can go there and you can visit this place. It's in a cave in Armenia, and there is carbon dating evidence from way back in 4100 BC. So you can know that how old winemaking has existed, over there. Can we go to the next? And that is what I found really fascinating about wine and its history. But there is a question that I get asked very often, that what are these words? If you see this particular pamphlet that you have words like Chardonnay, you have Cabernet Sauvignon, you have Zinfandel. These are the different grape varietals with which wine is made, and there is a difference between the grapes that go into winemaking and the grapes that go into eating. The ones that we eat or we make juice from is known as Thompson seedless. If you've observed them, they're actually longish in shape, and they don't have any seeds inside. And these are much sweeter, and they are meant for eating or making any preserves or juices from. But the wine grapes, as you can see the picture on the screen, the technical name of that is called Vitis vinifera. That is the species of wines, and within Vitis vinifera you have thousands, more than 10,000 different types of grape varietals around the world. But the ones that we know today have become popular because they make good quality of wine, they have good flavor, they can grow in various types of climatic conditions and various types of soils. And it is these wine grapes that we are going to be talking about today. Can we go to the next slide? This is a structure of a wine grape. What happens in this is that there are various parts to it which contribute towards the wine. For example, if you've heard of a word called tannin, which is found in wine, also found in various other foods, like in jamuns and in almond skins, or or in tea as well. Tannin is found. It's found in the skin of grapes, and it's also found in the stalks and the seeds. And then you have the pulp, which is actually pale in color. All the color actually comes into the red wines from the skin of the grapes. And wine also has different types of acids which give it a freshness. So all that is found in the pulp of the grape. Can we go to the next slide? So, when we main difference that I wanted to highlight between white wines and red wines is that white wines are made without the skins. So when you get the grapes, you crush them and you remove the skins, and then you make wine with that. That is for white wine. But whereas for red wine, you actually keep the skins in contact with the grape juice. And that's how red wine gets its color, because the color and the tannins actually come from the skin of the grapes. A lot of the flavor that you get in red wine also comes from the skin of the grapes. So that is the main difference between making white wine and red wine, is that it's fermented. Red wine is fermented with the skins and white wine is fermented without the skins. Right? Can we go to the next one? Very often you also see that wine is aged in oak. Now, why is that done? Because wine at the beginning, when the wine has been made, it can be very harsh, it can be very astringent, it can be very tannic, it can be very drying on your palate. So in order to soften the wine and to make it taste better, you actually put it in these oak barrels. So what that does is, oak barrels are made from oak trees and they are porous. So what that does is that oxygen slowly enters the wine and it softens the wine basically. And that's how you get, those sweet spice notes or the vanilla notes that you find in red wines. The smoothness of red wines that you find, that comes because those wines have been aged in these oak barrels. And it also adds a lot of different flavor compounds to the wine as well. Which brings me to the next point, that wine is not just made in the winery. Actually, 70% of the wine is made in the vineyard, and therefore the quality of the fruit, the quality of the grapes is very important when you're making wine. So you can make good quality wine only from good quality of grapes. And that's why we say that 70% of the wine is made in the vineyard. Can we go to the next slide? And at the end of the day, grapes are an agricultural product, so any agricultural product is going to be affected by the various climatic and soil conditions that are there around, so therefore where the grapes are grown is again very, very important, whether it's grown on a hillside slope or whether it's grown on a flat site, what kind of climate is there in that place. Can we go to the next slide? What kind of climate is there, whether it's hot climate or warm climate or moderate climate, that is going to affect the kind of flavors that you find in the grapes. Similarly, what kind of soil the grapes are grown on, that is going to have an effect on the flavor. And the kind of terrain, whether it's a flat site or a hillside slope, even that is going to have an effect on the quality and the flavor profile of the grape, and hence that of the wine, basically. And then you have the traditions that are followed in the various wine regions around the world. Every region around the world has its own traditions and ways and methods of making their wine, and that also has an impact on the quality, the flavor profile of the grape. And all of these things together is known as the terroir. It's a very important concept when it comes to wine, as to where the wine is coming from. A wine has a sense of place, just like a good whiskey. Why is Scotch different from, say, just regular whiskey? And that's because of where it is coming from. Similarly, it's the same thing applies to wine as well, that where the grapes are grown is very, very important. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. Also, just now you might have heard me using various kinds of words. Of course, when you hear somebody talking about wine, or when you read about wine, you come across various words, that make you wonder what it is. How do we use these words? What do these words mean? How can we use them in order to understand wine better? So if you've heard of words like nose of a wine, which means the aroma of a wine. Then is the sweetness level of a wine. Sometimes you find that some wines are sweeter while some wines are drier. And by dry, I mean that it does not have any sugar content. Dry does not refer to the fact that it dries your mouth when you drink red wine. That is because of the tannin in red wine. So when you have tea, or when you have jamun, or when you have wine as well, especially red wine, it dries your palate. It creates this mouth drying effect. And that's because of the tannin in the wine. Then you have the acidity in a wine. For example, if you have a piece of lime, it's going to make your mouth water. Similarly, even wine has different acids which make your mouth water. So that is known as the acidity. Alcohol level, of course, everybody knows, the ABV of a wine. Generally, for wines, it ranges anywhere between 6% to going up to, in slightly more alcoholic wines, it can go even up to 20 to 22% as well. A body of a wine, again, a very, very commonly used term. It's, in fact, you will find that as a descriptor on the pamphlet as well about each wine. The body of a wine is how heavy or light it feels on your palate. So, to just explain to you that with an example, when you have water, it's very light on your palate. But when you have fresh fruit juice, it's slightly heavier on your palate. And then when you have something like milk that is more full bodied, that the flavor of it lasts for longer, it feels heavier on your tongue. Something like that is full bodied. So even in wine, you have light bodied, medium bodied, and full bodied wines. Then you have the finish of a wine, which is the aftertaste of the wine. What kind of aftertaste does it leave on your palate after you have drank the wine? That is known as the finish. And the longer the finish, better is the quality of that wine. And then lastly, you have the flavor characteristics. Can we go to the next slide? This is something that I get asked very frequently. If you've heard people describe words like, oh, this smells like flowers, or this smells like raspberry or cherry, or this smells like vanilla, or this smells like blueberries, blackberries, do they really add these flavors to wine? Actually, they do not add any flavors to wine at all. What you are actually doing is that these different compounds, they could be related to smells like fruits or flowers, certain kinds of spices. You could have certain herbal notes like rosemary or thyme, or, you could even get like spices like ginger, for example, in some wines. Then you've heard of like, oh, it smells a little woody, or smells oaky, or it smells like vanilla, or it's, smells a little vegetal. You know, these are the different words that are used to describe the aroma and flavor characteristics of the wine. And these are not added in the wine, but what happens is that these actually naturally occur in the wine. Either they could be present in the grape, or it could be added in the wine during the fermentation process. By added, I mean that it gets naturally generated in the wine. So when I say this wine smells like lime, for example, does not mean that lime has been added to it. It just means that it has a similar compound that is like that you find in a lime as well, or you find in a strawberry as well. And the same compound is there in the wine. And that's why you get those aromas and flavors from that wine. Can we go to the next slide? And that's because wine has, can we go to the next one? That's because wine actually has these different kinds of compounds, different kinds of acids, different kinds of pyrazines, phenols, sulfur compounds, esters, which are all organic chemical compounds that are naturally present in the wine. And therefore, you know, that is what is there naturally in the wine, and that's why you're getting those aromas and flavors. Can we go to the next one? Now I'm going to talk to you about the 5 steps of tasting wine. Here is when, you know, I would encourage you to take your glasses and, you know, maybe do these steps along with me. And therefore, you know, we can learn how to taste wine. So when I started my journey in wine, I knew nothing about it. And wine tasting is actually a learned skill. Yes, you could be blessed with a good palate, and you could be blessed with your ability to tell different flavors and aromas. But at the same time, wine tasting is requires a lot of practice, and that's how even I got better at it. You know, the more I tasted wines, the more I practiced my tasting skills, the better I got at it. So we all start from the base, and in wine tasting, the best part is that there is no right or wrong. You know, everybody's palate is different, everybody's ability to smell and taste is different, and therefore it's very subjective. You know, there is no right or wrong. What I smell, you might not smell. What you might smell, I might not smell. And that's because when we are growing up, we are exposed to different kinds of foods, different kinds of aromas around us. And that is what builds our tasting and smell vocabulary, you know. So like I said, there is no right or wrong. What you smell and what you taste is perfectly good. However, there are 5 steps that we follow when it comes to wine tasting. So, you know, maybe you guys could do the same steps that I'm doing right now. Can we go to the next slide? So in this wine, you know, the first wine that we have, which is the Sula Brut. This is a sparkling wine. You know, generally people use the word champagne to describe sparkling wines. The fact of the matter is that a sparkling wine made in the Champagne region of France can only be called champagne. Everything else is sparkling wine. So this is a sparkling wine and not a champagne. Maybe this is a point that you could, you know, show off to your friends next time someone says, oh, let's open a bottle of champagne, you know. So you can tell them that, hey, it's champagne only when it comes from Champagne. So here we have the Sula Brut with us. The word brut indicates dry. That means that this particular wine has very, very less sugar content. Usually dry wines have less than 3 grams per liter. So, you know, these are the lowest calorie wines that you can drink, which are dry wines. The more sugar that it has, the higher calories also that a wine has. So this is the first one. You generally would hold it against like a white piece of paper. So you can hold it against that in order to see that the wine has to be bright and clear. If it is dull or hazy, that means that there is some fault in that wine. So that's the first thing that we want to see. Can we go to the next one? Then the next is we try to understand the color and the intensity of that color. As you can see in this chart, you know, you have a white wine on your absolute left. You can see that it's very pale and light in color, whereas the one on the right side is more deeper and darker in color. So when you observe a wine, it can tell you a lot about the age of the wine as well. Interesting bit is that white wines actually gain color as they age, and whereas red wines actually lose color as they age. The color can also tell you a lot about the body of a wine. A full, like a deep dark color means that the wine has more body. And at the same time, it could have more tannins as well, right? Sometimes it can tell us a little bit about the grape varietal as well. And it tells us about the acidity as well. Higher acid wines are lighter in color as compared to lower acid wines, which can be deeper and darker in color. So like this wine, I would say, is like this, medium lemon gold kind of a color that it has. And so it tells me, and it also has these bubbles. If you observe the wine in your glass, it has like these bubbles going up, and these bubbles are generated in a sparkling wine naturally because of the way this wine has been produced. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. Also, a lot of times you see these legs, on the side of the glass. This mainly indicates the alcohol level. Now, this wine has a very low alcohol level, so you don't see that thick legs. But actually, when we taste the red wines, you might be able to see, more of the thicker legs, and which actually just indicates the alcohol level in a wine. Can we go to the next one? Yeah. Now, why do we swirl the wine? We swirl the wine in order to release its aromas and flavors, because a wine actually has a lot of volatile compounds, and when you swirl the wine, it interacts with the oxygen, and therefore it releases those aromas and flavors from the wine. So after swirling, can we go to the next? Is when you smell a particular wine. You smell this wine because you take in the aromas in small sniffs. You don't have to take deep breaths. You just have to smell it very lightly and do it multiple times in order to understand the aromas of the wine. And why this is important? This is one of the most important steps in wine tasting. That's because 70% of our palate is actually our olfactory senses. For example, if your favorite dish is being cooked at home, and if you can get a whiff from the kitchen, you can almost taste the dish. Why is that? And that's because our olfactory senses play a huge role in terms of tasting something. And when you smell it, you can almost taste it. So you can get better at wine tasting when you learn how to actually smell and understand those aromas. So in this wine, this wine is, if you refer to this pamphlet that you have of the first wine, we are going to taste the first wine now. Yeah. So this particular wine, actually, as you can see in the pamphlet, it says it's made with 3 different grape varietals. It's a blend of Chenin Blanc, Riesling, and Viognier. So that's why it also has a really nice aroma. It has a slightly floral aroma. It smells a little lime and lemony. It smells a little bready, yeasty as well. And that's because sparkling wines that are made in the traditional method, like this wine is made, or the champagne method, is the same way that champagne is made. So because of that, it has like this bready, yeasty aroma because the wine has been aged on that yeast for a long time. That's why it gets a little bit of that bready, yeasty nose as well. So I get that, I get lime, I get a little bit of floral aromas because Riesling and Viognier both are very floral grape varietals. They have a very floral aroma, and Chenin Blanc is a very fruity grape varietal, so that is what makes this wine very fruity as well. So now I'm going to give it a taste. Can we go to the next slide? When we taste the wine, you basically let it coat the inside of your mouth, and that's because you want the wine to go to every part of your palate, on the sides, on the tip of your tongue, on top of your palate. It has to really coat the entire mouth so that you can get all the different flavors from the wine. Generally you also see people trying to draw in air. I mean, I'm going to do that right now, so maybe you can follow my lead. You just draw in a little bit of air from your mouth. What that is also going to do when you do that the air is going to interact with the wine in your mouth, and it's going to release those flavors, and your nose is actually connected to your throat. So when it does that, when you draw in air, the aromas will go from your palate into your nose from the back as well. So that also aids in tasting a wine better. The next slide. Yeah. either you spit the wine or you savor the wine. Now, why do we spit? Wine, actually, when we are tasting all of it, a lot of times I have a lot of my friends tell me that, hey, like, why are you spitting the wine? Why are you spitting the good stuff? The point is that, when we are in professional tastings where we are really trying to taste mindfully, we could be tasting 30 to 50 wines in one sitting. So at that time, it's not possible to drink all of this wine. And that is why you spit the wine, because it dehydrates you if you end up drinking too much. And also it's going to interfere with your ability to mindfully taste wines. But right now, we are having a lot of fun. So we are not going to spit the wine. We're just going to savor this wine. So, right now, the first wine, I hope everybody is drinking that wine. And I want to just quickly take you through, the tasting notes for this wine. It actually has a lot of fruit, but at the same time, it's not very fruity as well. What we call jammy wines that you will generally find in red wines, which are very, very fruity. But this year, the fruit level is of medium level. The acidity is very high. Generally in sparkling wines, the acidity is very, very high, because that is what you need in order to keep that freshness in the wine. Also, that is the reason why sparkling wines are served cold, for two reasons. A is that the bubbles get preserved for longer when the wine is cold, and also because it's high in acidity. When you have a high acid wine at a cool temperature, it's going to soften the acidity of the wine and it's going to express its fruity character. So that's why you have sparkling wines and white wines, which are both higher in acidity as compared to red wines. You have them at colder temperatures. So sparkling wine, generally, I would say anywhere between 8 to 10 degrees you can have. By a general rule of thumb, I mean, you're not really going to use a thermometer to go and, get the temperature. What you can do is minimum keep a sparkling wine in your fridge for at least 3 to 4 hours before you drink it. That is going to really chill the wine very well. And if possible, keep it overnight. And that's going to chill the wine even better. Right. So then we are tasting this wine right now. It's a very light bodied wine. It feels very smooth on your palate. It does not feel heavy at all. In fact, it feels very, very light. Tannins, because this is a white wine, it is made without the skins, and therefore it doesn't have any tannin in it. Also, the sweetness level, this wine, what I would say is that it has a medium sweetness level. It's not absolutely dry, so it's not very, very tart. It's in fact very fruity, and it has this mild sort of sweetness to it. So I would say this wine is off dry, or it has a medium level of sweetness. And then finally is the alcohol content. The alcohol content is also medium. I think somewhere on the bottle, it should mention how much alcohol does it have. It has 12%. That is medium level of alcohol for any wine. Also, on the front, you can see it says Cremant de Nashik. In the front, it says that Cremant de Nashik Sula Brut. So Sula, of course, is the name of the winery. Brut is the style of wine. But what does Cremant de Nashik mean? Cremant actually is a French word for sparkling wines. So this is a sparkling wine from Nashik. That is what the words Cremant de Nashik means. And, so that was about this particular wine. Right.
You want to check on your winners? How are they doing?
Guys, how are you guys doing? Can I see
our winners of the contest?
Yeah, how do I see them?
Then that Vishu will be in there.
Okay. Super. I hope you guys are enjoying the wines. I hope you're having a sip, and listening to all this wine gyan. Yes, I can see Harshala. I can see you sipping some wine right there. So cheers, everybody. Right now, we're going to go to the second wine, which is this one. This is a Sula Dindori Chardonnay.
Chardonnay.
Right?
Yeah. 5 મિનિટ માં શું થવાનું છે?
Okay, chalo, I'm listening. Kit karo.
Yes. Hi. We will request all the participants to
Mute themselves.
Mute themselves, please. Also, now we are pouring the second wine. Right? Guys, are you ready with the second wine? Okay, so now I'm going to pour the second wine and I'm going to tell you a little bit about that. Yeah, so this wine is the Sula Dindori Chardonnay. Once again, to just tell you the name of the wine. Yeah, Sula, of course, is the name of the vineyard. And then we have Dindori, which, if you didn't know, is actually a part of Nashik Valley. And Dindori is one of the best districts from where grapes come. It is in a much cooler part of the Nashik Valley, and it produces very high quality of grapes. So, Dindori, therefore, it indicates the sub-region where it comes from. Here you have the word reserve. It says Sula Dindori Reserve Chardonnay. Reserve refers to the fact there could be two reasons why you use the word reserve on any wine. A, it's made from better quality of grapes. And secondly, that the wine could be aged in oak barrels for a certain period of time, or a percentage of the wine could be aged in oak barrels for a certain period of time. Now, you might wonder, how is white wine aged in oak barrels? But the fact of the matter is that Chardonnay as a grape varietal is actually one of the white wine grape varietals that actually benefits from oak aging. It does very well with oak, and that's because it's a very neutral kind of a grape varietal. It takes up its flavors from the terroir. It takes up its flavors from where the grapes are grown, what kind of soil is grown in, what kind of climatic conditions it's grown in. And also, if a certain percentage is aged in oak, then it develops this slightly vanilla and butter, kind of notes. Chardonnay will do that when it's aged in oak. Also, it gains a little bit of color from the oak. So as you can see, this wine has a slightly deeper color as compared to the sparkling wine. And now I would encourage you to, follow the 5S of wine tasting. So first we are going to see the wine, understand the color of the wine, and then we swirl it. Well, I can smell that, it smells like butter popcorn to me. That's the first whiff I got from the wine. And that's because a small percentage of this wine is aged in oak barrels. So what that does is it adds a little bit of that vanilla notes, a little bit of that buttery character to the Chardonnay. And that's what I get on the wine. So I get vanilla, I get a little bit of butteriness on the nose, so that's what I'm getting. I'm also getting very ripe citrus fruits. I'm getting a little bit of pears as well, a little bit of peaches, and also like very ripe, tangerine and very ripe limes, lemons actually is what I'm getting on the wine. So to tell you a little bit about the grape varietal, Chardonnay is one of the most popular white grape varietals in the world, and the origin, the birthplace of Chardonnay, which makes some of the best Chardonnays in the world, is a region known as Burgundy, which is in France. That is the birthplace of Chardonnay, and over there you find that those coming from Burgundy and certain very cool climate places, Chardonnays tend to have a very citrus kind of a flavor. But when you take Chardonnay and you put it in a warm climate place, like for example, Chardonnays coming from Australia or coming from Napa Valley in California, which is another very important place for Chardonnays, over there you find more tropical fruit flavors. And similarly, even in Dindori, you have very warm days and cool nights, which is actually beneficial for the grapes. So these warm days produce this kind of tropical fruit flavors in the Chardonnay, and that is what I find in this particular one. Excuse me. So now after sniffing the wine is when I would smell the wine, taste the wine now. Yeah, I get a lot of, I'm getting so much of tangerine. I'm getting these ripe, like Mosambik kind of flavors. We don't always have to relate the flavors to fruits that we see in other countries. There are a lot of wines, for example, like a Sauvignon Blanc that comes from many parts of the world, especially from New Zealand, has this gooseberry, like avla kind of notes. So, similarly, even in this wine, I find like a lot of tangerine orange kind of flavors. I find like a lot of Mosambi flavors. And then I get like these ripe pineapple kind of notes as well on this wine. Besides that slight butteriness, as you can see on your palate, the wine feels very soft textured. And that's because a percentage of the wine has been aged in oak barrels, which softens the wine, softens the acidity of it, and gives it a rounded texture. And that's what I find on this wine. Now, when it comes to pairing white wines or sparkling wines, you would pair them with lighter foods. And that's because these wines are more delicate in flavor. And therefore, when you're pairing it as well, I think we've given you some pairing suggestions as well. And it talks about things like prawns, crab, butter chicken, salads with creamy dressing, creamy pasta, because these are very complementary kind of flavors to this wine. You might wonder, how are we pairing butter chicken with wine? Butter chicken is generally very mildly spiced, not the spicy ones. It has more butteriness. It has mild spice notes. It has a little bit of sweetness to it as well. Similarly, even this wine is very mild, and the kind of fresh acidity that this wine has is actually going to cut through the richness of that gravy of that butter chicken. So that's how it's going to pair well with that. You need something fresh and crisp to go with typically our Indian foods, which can be very rich in flavor. I think this would pair very well, even with some pakoras, like paneer pakoda or something like that. I think it'll go really well, with that, because even that has a soft texture, and anything that is fried goes very well with high acid wines, because that acidity is going to cut through the richness of that fried food. So you could even have this with like fried chicken, for example. Like fried chicken and sparkling wine is like a classic combination. So, you can, there's always a lot of room for experimentation when it comes to pairings. Again, because it's very subjective, a pairing that I might enjoy, somebody else might not, and what they might enjoy, I might not, so it's very subjective. So always feel free to experiment with different, different pairings. And, and then now what I want to do is that, right, we spoke about the acidity of the wine. Generally, Chardonnays have a very soft acidity, unless it's coming from a very cold place like a Burgundy or something. There, the acidity could be much higher. But when Chardonnays come from warm places like in India, then they have very soft acidity, and that's what I think makes them very enjoyable to drink as well in our weather. Also, the tannins on this are absolutely low, because it's not only a small percentage is aged in the oak barrels, and it is not fermented along with the skin, so it does not really have any tannin. Also, the sweetness level is low. This is a very dry wine. If you were to compare the first wine and the second wine, this is much drier as compared to the first wine. And the alcohol level is also low. I think even this should be around 12%, 12 or 13. I don't think it would be more than that. Yeah, it's 13%. It's written at the back, so it's, again, a low level of alcohol, right? And the reds, and yeah. Guys, now you can, take out the reds from the fridge. If they have been chilling in the fridge for a bit, you can take them out. And, now we're going to taste the reds. In the meanwhile, if there are any questions, I think right now would be a good time to answer some questions. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Let me check on silence.
So we are checking the questions. Guys, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, that's fine as well.
Hello. Hi, my name is Nitin. I would like to ask that, do we need to store all these wines in refrigerator?
Yeah, once they have been opened, you need to keep them in the fridge and consume it within 48 hours, like 2 days. But also, in India, it's pretty hot, right? So I would advise you to store all your wines in the fridge. In the regular fridge, like even if you don't have a wine fridge, it's all right, but just keep them in the fridge. That does two things. A, it preserves your wine against any kind of heat, because wine is very sensitive to temperature, so that's why it needs to be stored in a cool, stable environment. And also, when you keep your sparkling or your white wines in the fridge, you can literally just pull it out and drink it whenever you want to drink it. Because they're ready to drink, because they have been chilled. And as for the reds, you can just keep them outside for 20 minutes. They will, warm up a little bit, and they will be ready to drink as well.
Hello.
Thank you so much. I must thank you so much that I have never heard of so much of explanation about any wine so far. So this is fantastic what you're doing.
So can we see you? Can you tell us your name and Nishu?
Hello, I'm Nikita.
Yes. Hi, Nikita.
Hello, I'm more of a cocktail person. So I would like to know with which of cocktail what more cocktails we can make with wines.
Well, I mean, I'm not really into cocktails myself, and like wine cocktails, I make very, very less. The maximum one that I know of is a sangria. I don't really know of any other wine cocktails.
Okay.
And there are lots of interesting recipes of sangria that you will find online.
Okay.
There is a lot of room for experimentation in sangria in terms of what other spirits you want to add or what kind of fruits you want to add. But generally for sangria, a ground rule is that you go with a decent quality of wine and a very fruity wine. That is what makes sangrias good,
So what all wines do you suggest for sangria?
A fruity wine. A fruity wine is perfectly okay.
Anything from the kit you have given, like?
You can do a sangria with this wine, but actually this wine is perfectly good to drink on its own. So I would not recommend sangria with this. But, a wine, maybe an Indian wine that costs anywhere between 500 to 800 rupees. I think something like that is good to make a sangria.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
So Nishu,
any questions?
Yeah. Do you want to see the winners? Can we have a look at them on the screen as well, please? We'd love to see our wonderful winners. Hi, Nikita. I'd like to see you guys turn on your cameras. Hi, Ankita. Okay, guys, okay, I'm obviously wine mouth right now because I've been drinking in the side. But let me quickly tell you, in case you just joined in, guys, this wine session has been enabled at Kala Ghoda because of Sula Wines as well as Magic Cellars coming together. The winners, of course, I'd like to request you once again to switch on your camera so that we can see you all. And we can see you cheersing to us. We can see you toasting to us. This was, of course, a contest. Yes, this was a contest that we ran on our social media pages. And of course, the winners of that have received these fantastic wine kits. And Ankita, I can see you and your, I hope, Valentine are together. It'll be her brother. And then she'll be like, no, this is my brother. Okay, so great. It's great for people. There you are. Hi, Adi, Shayan. How are you?
Hey, very good. How are you?
Thank you. I hope you're having a good time with us. There's Sumit. Hi, Sumit. How are you doing? There's NW. I'm sorry, I don't know what NW stands for. You're on mute. Hello. Niyati Mehta is here. Hi, Niyati. Niyati, are you by yourself and drinking on your own or what?
Yes. I'm actually traveling. I'm in Delhi right now, so I only carried one bottle of wine with me.
Yes, and you said that your family's in Bombay and they're getting a couple of those bottles, right?
Yes, right.
I hope that they're enjoying the session as well. I'm going to go back to NW at this point. Ma'am, you can unmute yourself and tell us your name, please. Sorry, I think you still have to unmute yourself. Sir is coming to the rescue. I love it. This is so nice. This is our little attempt at bringing friends, families, couples together one night before Valentine's Day. All thanks to Magic Cellars. Please follow her on Instagram. She's obsessed with wine, as you know. If you just started your journey in wine, guys, take my word for it when I say this. Just following Gargi has made me slightly more literate, and now I can go to very fancy parties and also understand when they say stuff like the nose of the wine and the legs of the wine. So please follow her on Instagram so that you can constantly feel like I do. And yeah, over to you, Gargi, if you want to go ahead with the rest of it. Just wanted to say a quick hello to all our wonderful audience tonight. Once again, congratulations to each and every one of you, and thank you for joining us at the Kala Ghoda Festival. Really, so stay with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so now you have this wine, the bigger bottle that we sent to you, the Sauce Cabernet Sauvignon. That's the one that we are going to taste next. So you can pour that in your glasses. Now, has anybody ever wondered, why do you pour, when I was not into wine and, I have gone to a restaurant and I've ordered a glass. You can just have the big screen, so basically, I used to wonder, why do they pour so less, when the glass is so big? And that's because a wine needs to aerate. It needs to get exposed to oxygen in order to express itself. And that's why you pour a little bit. My thumb rule is to pour the wine till the widest point in the glass, not beyond that. And especially when you're tasting the wine, then you can pour even lesser, but that's because it's going to give you more space to swirl your wine in the glass. And that's very important, like I said, to release the aromas and flavors. And, if you are not comfortable with swirling the glass in your hand, earlier in the picture, I had shown that how you could actually place it on the table and then use your 2 fingers and then just swirl. Use your fingers for a grip to hold the base, and you can swirl the wine. But again, this is practice. You're mainly just using your wrist to swirl the glass, right? So now here we have the Source Cabernet Sauvignon. The Source, if you haven't heard of this range by Sula, so just like how Dindori is a more premium wine of Sula, you have another brand of theirs called the Source, which basically, they are referring to the fact that they are sourcing these grapes from very good quality vineyards, their own vineyards from which these wines are made. So under the Source label, you have 3 different wines. Today we are tasting their red. They have a rosé, which they launched first. Then they launched a Sauvignon Blanc, a white. And now they have launched this red. In fact, this is one of the latest launch by Sula. It was launched only in December last year. So it's just been 2 months since they have launched this wine. And it's already doing really well in the market. And it's a really good quality of wine, that Sula is producing. And, I would definitely recommend even trying the white and the rosé if you're a fan of those styles of wines. So now this is made with 100% Cabernet Sauvignon grape. This is another very, very popular grape varietal in the world. So Cabernet Sauvignon is one of the largest, highest planted red grape varietals in the world. And that's because it produces a good quality of wine. It produces very concentrated fruity wines, and at the same time it is very resistant to diseases, and it can sustain itself in warm climates. It can sustain itself in various kinds of soils, and because of that it has become very easy to grow Cabernet Sauvignon. And therefore anywhere where any new winery comes up, or any new wine region, not just a winery, even if a new wine region in the world is coming up, they would definitely plant Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc, because these are fairly easier to grow grape varietals as compared to many other grape varietals. So that's why, Sauvignon Blanc has today become the highest planted grape varietal in the world. And it requires a moderate to warm climate to ripen. It cannot do very well in cold climates. So therefore, even the birthplace of Cabernet Sauvignon, which is the famous region of Bordeaux in France, is also, has a moderate temperate climate. It's not a cold climate place at all. In fact, Bordeaux has a climate, what we call as a maritime climate, which is very similar to what we find in Mumbai, for example. So the summers are not very hot. Of course, in India, it's pretty hot because we are in the tropics. But when you go above, so the main wine growing belt that you will find in different parts of the world is generally located between 30 to 50 degree latitude in both the hemispheres. So, Europe lies in that latitude, and that is why, so does California. When you go in the southern hemisphere, so does, parts of Australia and New Zealand, even South Africa, and parts of Argentina, Chile, and all these places grow really good quality of grapes. And that's because they're located in that 30 to 50 degree latitude belt. And similarly, the famous region of Bordeaux, which has some of the most luxurious, some of the most expensive wines in the world, Cabernet Sauvignon is the dominant grape varietal over there. And that is the birthplace of Cabernet Sauvignon. Generally, it produces wines that are very fruit forward, that are very bold in style. Cabernet Sauvignon has small berries, but it has very thick skins. And therefore, what happens is that when you have thicker skins, you have more concentration of flavors because the flavors are coming from the skins, and you have more tannin as well. That's because, once again, the tannins are in the skins. So when a grape varietal has thick skins, it can produce a very deep color, it can produce a high tannin wines, it can produce very concentrated and fruity wines, basically. So that is what Cabernet Sauvignon does as well. However, you will find that Cabernet Sauvignons are produced in two styles. They could be medium bodied with medium level of tannins, or they could be full bodied with high level of tannins. This particular Cabernet Sauvignon falls in the medium category. So it has a medium body, it has medium level of tannins, it's very fruit forward. So when you taste the wine, I get a lot of like these jammy black fruit notes on the nose, and on the palate, I'm just going to give it a taste. So the wine has a balanced acidity. It has good concentration of flavors. It is a fruit forward wine, but it has a good tannin structure. You experience a little bit of dryness on your palate right in the middle of your tongue. If you taste the wine mindfully, that's what you do. For me, actually, wine tasting is very meditative because you really have to focus on one particular thing. What is meditation at the end of the day? You focus on one particular thing. So for me, wine tasting is similar, where I really focus in on just what is in the glass at that point in time, and I try to taste it as mindfully as I can. So when you taste this wine, you actually get like this dryness in the middle of your tongue. And that's because Cabernet Sauvignon, a high tannin grape varietal, but this has been made in a fruit forward style with a medium level of tannins. And therefore those tannins you experience only in the middle of your palate. If a wine has very high level of tannins, you'll actually experience it coating the sides of your cheeks as well, so it will be more drying, your mouth. This does not dry your mouth as much. At the same time, I get a little bit of, typical this kind of graphite-y lead kind of a note. Again, a very typical characteristic of Cabernet Sauvignon is this graphite-y pencil shaving, kind of a note. Once again, you might feel that is really odd kind of a note to get in a wine, but lot of different aromas and flavors are found in the wine which you might not expect. So only when someone is guiding you through the tasting is when you can actually say, oh yes, I do smell that as well. So that was about this particular wine. I actually really enjoy this wine. It's very easy drinking, and it can go with a variety of foods. We've given you some food pairing suggestions as well. And this wine was partially aged in French oak barrels as well. That is adding those sweet spice notes to the wine. And if you are a vegetarian, then once again, if you have certain high fat foods like a paneer, or full bodied foods like a veg biryani or something, that can also go with this wine. Right now, we are going to go to the next wine, which is the last one. You have a smaller bottle of that. Yeah, which is a Zinfandel. Zinfandel, another very interesting grape varietal with a very interesting history. Actually Zinfandel very prominently found in warm places. You get, for example, it became famous after going to California, where a lot of Zinfandel wines are found, including made into rosé styles of wine. And Zinfandel, again, produces very fruit forward, very jammy wines. And this particular one is called the Sula Rasa Zinfandel. Rasa, once again, is the name of the brand, and it is one of the most premium wines from the Sula range. For example, this pint bottle costs 850 rupees, 845 rupees. And that's because this wine is aged in oak barrels, and it is made from a very premium quality of grapes, right? So now you can actually, we're going to taste this particular wine. And, very often I get asked, how do you tell the difference between two red wines? Like, what is the difference? And the key to that is that, can we go to the next slide? The key to understanding wine and wine better is to taste as many wines as possible, as many different styles of wines as possible, and to actually learn about different grape varietals. That is the first step to understanding wine. We can always learn all the fancy terms, we can talk about wine in a flowery language, but the point is that when you learn about different grape varietals, it can really give you a lot of insight into what wine is all about. So I would encourage you to taste as many wines as possible and to learn about different grape varietals. It's very easy to find lots of information online. And you can also refer to my Instagram page, where I give out a lot of information about different types of wines from around the world. So yeah, now we're going to taste the Zinfandel. Right. So now actually, I don't know if you guys are able to taste, I would say taste the two wines side by side, the Sauce Cabernet Sauvignon and the Rasa Zinfandel. If you taste the wines, the Zinfandel has more of these ripe cherries and ripe plum kind of notes, whereas the Cabernet Sauvignon had more blackberry kind of notes. So here I felt that the wine was the Zinfandel is definitely fruitier. Like I said, as a grape varietal itself is also far more fruity. It's a bigger style of wine, it's more full bodied as compared to the first red wine, and that's because this wine also has aged in oak barrels. So when you age any red wine in oak barrels, it adds even to the body of the wine. It softens the tannins, but it gives the wine a fuller body. And that's what I find in this wine, and also smell like more vanilla and more sweet spices in the Zinfandel as compared to the Cabernet Sauvignon, because the whole of the wine has been aged in oak barrels, as compared to this one where a small percentage of the wine was aged in the barrels. So this wine is less oaky as compared to the Zinfandel, which is definitely higher in its oaky and woody kind of notes. But if you observe, it's not like overtly oaky or woody as well, because they have really done the whole idea is to have wines which are very balanced. You don't want the oak to overpower the wine, otherwise the wine is not going to be balanced and it's going to just be off. The fruit is going to get overpowered by the oak, and that is not something that we want. So this is a really well balanced wine. It's more full bodied, it has a very good acidity, it has more red fruit like plums and cherry kind of notes. And I would love to know actually what you guys have to say about these wines that we have tasted. And if there are any questions, I am happy to answer them.
Hello, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Yes, hi.
What does
What
rasa
is
mean?
Rasa? Rasa is actually the name of the brand name of the wine.
Okay.
And Rasa also is, in a way means like ras, so like juice. And it also stands for the initials of the founder of Sula, which is Rajiv Samant. So that's Rasa. And it also means like, ras of something, the essence of something,
So
essentially.
it is more on sweeter note, right?
It is definitely, yeah. You know what, actually both wines are dry. That's a very good point that you have come up with, because both wines are dry, but the Zinfandel is more fruity as compared to the Cabernet Sauvignon. That is why you might feel that it's on the sweeter side, but it's actually not on the sweeter side. It's just more fruity. The fruit is more pronounced in the Zinfandel
Okay.
as compared to the Cabernet Sauvignon.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, hi,
from
ma'am. My name is
Hi.
Nitin. Again, I just have one question that,
Yeah.
yes, these varieties are fantastic. I mean, you have come with a good bouquet of wines. Do you also make port wines?
Sula makes port wine, yes. I don't
Uh-huh.
make any wine.
No,
I
no,
don't
no. What
make
I
any
mean is
wine.
that Sula, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Lot
Yeah.
of, but actually, once again, I would like to point out that port wine actually is the real port wine is what comes from the Douro Valley in Portugal. That is the
Yeah.
real port wine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you taste the port wine that is made there as compared to what is made in India, there's a vast difference in that.
Yeah.
There's a
Yeah.
huge difference. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks very much.
Yeah. Any other questions? Does anybody have any other questions?
Are there any off aromas or tastes? Aditi Tandon wants to know. Is there a way to know if wine is off, spoiled, or bad once it's opened and kept in the fridge?
Yeah, for sure. If a wine smells very, what I would say, little bit vinegary, for example, or it is tasting very tart or way too sour than it's supposed to be, then that means that it has been, kept open for too long. Because what starts happening, the oxygen starts interacting with the wine and it starts converting it to vinegar. So, if it's been kept outside for too long, opened basically, then it's going to get like this very khatta kind of a flavor. You're not really going to get the fruitiness from the wine. That is one way. Another way to look at the wine, if the wine is dull looking or if it is hazy, then that means that the wine is definitely gone. And any well-made wine will express its character, will express its fruitiness, will have good acidity, will have good tannin, and if it is off balance as well, where one particular character is standing out too much, then, maybe there is something wrong, with the wine. But once again, like I said, it comes with practice. But the clear indicators are that if it is dull or hazy, it's definitely spoiled. And if it tastes very vinegary, if it tastes just tart and you're not getting really anything else from the wine, then it means that it's probably oxidized.
Let's take another question. Can you repeat where wines are supposed to be stored?
Okay, so you store the wines in your fridge. If you don't have a dedicated wine chiller, you store the wines in your fridge, in the regular fridge. It's fine, because then it will actually, cooler temperatures are better for wine as compared to warmer temperatures, especially in India, where our regular room temperatures are like 24 to 28 degrees. So it's always better to store it in the fridge. And once you've opened the bottle, then you can keep it for maximum 2 days, consume it within 2 days.
Next question is from Beena Biani. How long can we keep red wine in the fridge? But I guess 2 days?
Yeah, 2 days. Yeah, once you opened it, 2 days. After that, it will start losing its freshness and, then it starts getting oxidized, basically.
Fantastic. Any other questions, guys?
Ma'am, can you brief about rose wine?
Sure.
Rosé.
Okay, so rosé wine, actually, basically what happens is that rosé wine is actually made with red grape varietals only. But at the time when the grapes are crushed, earlier when I spoke about making red wines, where you keep the skins in contact with the grape juice for a good 15 days. But in case of rosé wines, you would keep the skins in contact with the grape juice for anywhere between 2 to 3 days. Sometimes even lesser than that, sometimes just a day. And what that is going to do is going to lead to less color extraction from the skins. And therefore you get that pink color in rosé wines, because the skin contact period is just for a very short period of time, essentially. That's how you get the rosé color.
Okay, and about storage, how about all the four wines? Just after opening, we are supposed to consume all the wines.
Like I said, you can keep it for 2 days. They would
Like
still be fresh for two
today, I
days.
have opened all the four wines, so
Yeah.
I need to finish
Till
it
day
in
after.
2 days.
Yeah. 2 days. Yes. I would say
2
2 days.
days.
Yeah. You can share it with your friends, share it with your family. That's not a lot of wine. We've sent you like 2.5 bottles of wine. That will get consumed in one night if you have, if you're sharing with family and friends. That's the beauty about wine. It's more fun when you share it with people. So I would encourage you to have some friends over and share the wines with them.
Have a bachelorette and finish it off.
Have a bachelorette and well,
Have Galentines. Galentines.
Right, we're having a Galentine. Well, guys,
Yeah.
I know you have lots
Thank
of
you
questions.
so much.
But thank you. This is where I'll have to let Gargi, start drinking some wine for herself. I think she's done enough tasting and teaching. But for right now, I hope you've had fun. Gargi, thank you so much. It was really fun.
Thank you so much.
I also want to know, how do you avoid the red staining of, like, you don't look like you've been drinking, but look at me. It's terrible. What do I do?
Eat.
Okay, great.
Eat some
So
food.
while I'm going to eat, guys, once again, I want to take you back to tomorrow. It's Super Sunday at the Kala Ghoda Festival. Don't miss Veer Das and Rohan Joshi playing a game of 22 questions. We've got Pankaj Das Sahab and Kavita Krishnamurthy in conversation. They went to St. Xavier's College and they're telling us some really great stories. We've also got, who else do we have tomorrow? We've got some, who do we have? Lots of children's events all day. So if you have kids and you're not hungover, please, or if you are hungover, then you want to bring the kids to that party tomorrow. So just make sure that you log on and you watch us all day tomorrow. It's also our last day at Kala Ghoda. And yeah, we've got an Italian chef making some yummy risotto, which we can't wait for that, from gnocchi coming up. So please tune in. And yeah, we shall see you tomorrow at the Kala Ghoda Festival. Gargi, thank you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for participating, and cheers.
Cheers,
I
guys.
hope you guys
Cheers.
have a
Thank you very much, and happy Valentine's Day.
You too.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you so much. It was very informative
Very
session.
much. Lovely
It was
evening.
very knowledgeable.
Thank
That's
you.
true.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gargi.